Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Hi, good, Diana. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm excited for our talking circle experience with you upcoming in August. I I've been thinking a lot about the topic that Rebecca will share with us. And before we get going, I want to tell you a little bit about Rebecca. I've known Rebecca for a number of years. We met uh, back in the early 90s, believe it or not, in Boston. She was a part of the New England Businesses for Social Responsibility. At the time, I had a small cause marketing firm, and we got to know each other a little bit over the years, and sort of had a mini parallel life. When I went to AOL, she actually founded one of the first internet e-commerce companies, museumshopathome.com, which was a really exciting time and a really amazing experience for Rebecca. And over the years, we've drifted apart and come back together, and I'm just so happy we've come back together more recently in these last 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, you were actually
So,
helpful in advising me during that period of time. It was
oh,
great.
well, it's really exciting, Rebecca. And tell me, when did you found inanutshell.com? What year was that?
So, in a nutshell, I found it in 2017 while I was working for a couple of other startups. I was working for Peach, and then I was working for Pepper Lane. And I started in full at the fall of 2018. So,
Oh, it's fantastic. So I will tell you just a quick bit about what Rebecca does. She is an absolutely sharp, attuned, brilliant business and marketing advisor and mentor to female founders. So she works with women who are both in the starting phase and also in the growth phase of running their businesses. She's developed a number of really powerful programs, a founders table. She does mastermind programs. And more recently, inspired by a book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, which, by the way, you referred to me, Rebecca, and it stands as one of the top 5 books I've read this year. Just very, very powerfully, personally for me. But Rebecca has developed more recently a program that she's going to give us a little taste of, and it's called, what is it? Harnessing Your Genius to Overcome Blocks That Are Holding You Back. So though Rebecca works primarily with or with female business owners, this process and this program is completely applicable to us all. So I'll hand it over to you, Rebecca, and I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about what your plans are for us in the upcoming talking circle.
sure. And I have to first give you kudos because it was at our Third Act Quest retreat that we started looking through all these different components of our lives to create a life that we love and to be our best selves. And so it was within that context, working on that through my business and with my clients. When the pandemic hit, I felt myself holding back from my business, and I couldn't really figure out why. And when I read this book, so much popped out at me, and I just thought that this would be something that would be relevant to so many people. So I wanted to provide a program to teach fellow founders and really peers some of the tools in this framework so that they can apply it to themselves. And really what it's all about is figuring out what's holding you back, um, understanding hidden hesitations that you have that may.
Oh, we have those?
It's basically a structure so you can kind of take a look at them and say, that one doesn't apply to me. Yes, that does apply to me. And whoa, that applies to me. And I really am holding myself back in this area. So it just one example. Well, the way what we're going to look at is a couple of just terms that Gay Hendricks has coined, and I've modified them for my own use. But really, it's understanding your upper limit or your tolerance for
Mm.
enjoying life, and really what are what triggers it, and what are some symptoms in your actions
So
that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but would you give me just a little taste example? Because when I first, actually, I listened to him read his book on Audible, but when I first heard, you know, that we would have a tendency to hold back our joy and enjoyment of life, I was like, that is so counterintuitive. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so there are four common triggers. One of them is attention. So this one was very relevant for me, and it's when you are uncomfortable getting attention for
Mm.
whatever reason, and or it could be, and then it looks into what are the causes of this. And if you're a business owner and you're uncomfortable getting attention, that's kind of a problem. So what is it? It's basically based on things that you've learned through your entire life, things that are reinforced as a kid, oh, you should never boast, and or you,
Especially as a female,
you don't
especially as a female.
jealous of you, you don't want to outshine a sibling. So things like that. And it's like, oh, wow, yeah, maybe that does apply to me. So that's just one example of there are four main triggers that we'll look at. And I'll go through a little exercise through this circle so you can hear some examples. And then how does this have to do with your zone of genius? Well, our actions fall into four categories. And I'll just tell them to you right now. One is our zone of incompetence. our
Sign up for that one.
our zone of excellence, and then our zone of genius. And the zone of genius is the things that we are just truly gifted at. And so the whole theory, just in a nutshell, the whole is to identify those, your zone of genius, and really move your life in that direction. So you're spending more and more time in your zone of genius and not so much time in some of the other zones. So a lot of it is counterintuitive. We do things because they're comfortable and we're used to them, and we're known for them. And it takes a lot of guts and courage to move out of the zone of excellence into the zone of genius. So that's what we'll talk about.
That's fabulous. It's going to be very interesting, especially to hear how people who haven't read the book will receive the information. Because for me, it was, as you say, counterintuitive, but it was also so like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. I think just the term genius too is so loaded. I mean, how many of us will say, oh, I'm genius at this? I mean, that's back to your original statement about what we're reluctant to put attention to ourselves, even if we know we have a gift.
Mm-hmm. And so many of my clients and fellow business owners, they get stuck into one area and they can't figure out why they keep bumping up against it. And so this is the whole point, because you may be, some people call it self-sabotage. You may be sabotaging your best, what you really want to accomplish, and it's an unconscious thing that you're doing. You don't realize why you're doing it. And this helps you focus on it, identify it, and then slowly, gradually dissolve the barrier. That's the whole point.
Well, and I think as I mentioned before, and I think it's really important for anyone who wants to come and join us on August 18th, Tuesday, and we're doing it at 7 p.m. so people have time to wind down if they have a work day, and grab a little bite and maybe a glass of wine to join us at 7 for this.
Circle I did, I had a glass of wine and I was out on my deck on my porch, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, one of the other programs or little talks Rebecca's done is about, the tendency that we've all had over the last few months to be over Zoom. So this Zoom experience is different. It's because it allows for us to, hear a little bit from Rebecca. She's going to take us through the topics she mentioned, but it also is going to give us some time to do our own contemplation. And, she's going to give us some foods for thought, and we're going to do a little alone time even for a few minutes to jot things down. And then the real fun part, I believe, at the end of these talking circles is when people share their thoughts and observations. And in some cases, people have pretty profound realizations. And I think this one will be a beautiful way to do that.
I look forward to it. I call that a brain trust when
Ooh, I love that term.
you're in one of these conversations, even if it's on Zoom, and somebody shares something and you're like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, got it. That really drives it home for me.